Eyup cock, you've seen title, you know what's coming. These are the things that I am 100% convinced will be happening next season. So there's no like me saying, oh, Barnsley are going to win league, because even though it's very likely, it's not a given. There are 11 things that I've got on this list, and first up, it's not a good one really, but I am convinced truly that at some point this season, Wrexham will sack Parkinson, the manager. They've obviously had a difficult start and they're sat in mid-table as of right now, time of me recording this. Obviously, international break is not going to change for at least a week. With the level of player that Wrexham have brought in, it's showing you it here on this list. This is a different world to what Wrexham have dealt with in previous seasons. Like the level of finance spent for a start, the level of player, the level of ego. You're not just bringing in lads that are coming in for one last payday at this point. These are very, very top-end footballers for championship level. And when I look through it and think of how technically gifted these lads are, Ben Sheaf, Callum Doyle, Lewis O'Brien, for the position that they're in, Windass, these are very, very good footballers. And the simplicity of Parky, I don't think he will get the best out of these players. Like, his biggest strength, Parkinson, is also his biggest weakness the further up the pyramid that you go. And I do think that success for Wrexham starts at finishing in top 6. I don't think if they're outside of the top 6, they will be happy with how the season's gone. And to be fair, like, they've had a fairly difficult start and they've come after it half decent, and the Wrexham. But if they're going to spell where, say, November or something, they're in bottom 6 or 7, which this squad does not warrant, by the way, the level of play that they've got throughout in multiple positions, you expect them to be top half at least. And I think if they're not that at any given point post-November, I think they will sack him and go for a big name to try and propel him into the Premier League. So that is step 1. I think Wrexham will sack Parkinson at some point this season. Next up, I think that at least 3 Midland teams will finish in top 6 in Championship. So that is a crop of current table, top to bottom. You're looking at West Brom, Stoke, Leicester, Coventry, Birmingham, Derby. I think 3 at least of them 6 will get in there. Obviously, some have got much better chance than others. Like, I wouldn't really expect Derby to be pushing right at very top, or Stoke, even though they're currently 3rd in table. But West Brom, Leicester, Coventry and Birmingham, to be fair, you could see all 4 of them in there, and that'd make it for a serious playoffs. But I can see minimum 3 being in there. For me personally, Coventry and Birmingham are an absolute given that they'll finish in top 6. And then I'm almost at a point where one of West Brom or Leicester probably will as well. Like, if all 4 of them get in, that would be serious. But I think at least 3 will finish in there. Next up, I'm not going to say that he's going to finish top goal scorer in the league, because there's always a couple rogue ones that come out of nowhere, like Josh Brownhill getting 18 last season. But Josh Sargent, if he stays fit for 40 plus games, I think he gets at least 20 goals. He is a nutcase. He's so talented. I've said this so many times and I feel like I've been banging on about this fella forever. I can't believe they've kept him. This is coming into his 4th season, I believe, at Norwich. And I think he's only his mid-20s in. We're not exactly looking at some old boy here. He's still got a lot to give at top level of football. And I'm so surprised that they've kept him. He's got 5 goals in 4 appearances so far. And this is for a Norwich side that have been quite poor to start with. Every 69 minutes, he scores every 69 minutes. He's had 15 shots and 5 have gone in. His goal conversion rate's 33%. Shot accuracy of 40. He's only had 6 shots off target. Mate, 1.3 goals per 90. I know, to be fair, he was scoring a lot of goals last season anyway, before he got injured. And then it all went to, like, everybody focusing on Borja Sands because everything sort of went through him instead. But when Josh Sargent is the focal point and the chances are created and the team is built around him, he is going to score so many goals. I think he's an elite level finisher for this level, for a side that going forward do look quite exciting anyway. Norwich defensively last season were awful, but going forward they scored a lot of goals. And I do truly just think that he is the complete 9 for this level. I'm not saying he's going to go on and be best player ever, but I think for the level that we are talking about here in Championship, there is not a better striker in this division. And Liam Manning typically hasn't had a number 9 in his teams that have gone and got 20 plus goals. You're looking at like Naki Wells got 10 last season. This is for playoff side in Bristol City. Naki Wells got 10 and I think that was most. But he's not had a player of this level at his disposal. And I think now that he has, Liam Manning's a very good manager. I think he can get most out of his best of players like he did last season with Bristol City at Middle Park. I think he will score 20 plus, me. I expect him to be top goal scorer, but I'm not going to say that he is because you never know. But I expect 20 plus goals from Josh Sargent. I think he will be right up there. Another Championship one. Let me just get my table back up. I think all 3 promoted sides from League One last season will survive at least. And we're obviously talking about Birmingham, who broke the EFL points record and League One's obviously last season. Looking at Wrexham, will come up in 2nd place and have spent £30 million because of it. and we're looking at Charlton who come up through playoffs and again have spent 10 million quid. I think them 3 teams, specifically Birmingham, I think will, like I said, I think they'll be top 6. I think they're a given for that. I think Wrexham will be pushing top half, and I think Charlton will be fairly safe. I think all 3 will be comfortably fine in terms of some of the other teams down at bottom of this league who've been here for a while that just do not look up to the same standard of them 3 teams. They've all invested very heavily. Like, the lowest spending team out of them 3 is Charlton, who spent 10 million quid since they've been promoted. So there's a lot of money coming up from League One this season, and this is what we had to deal with last year. I think they are helped by the fact that Wednesday are absolutely dog shit, which we're going to touch on in a minute. But also teams like Hull, who've had a transfer embargo. You're looking at Blackburn, who financially just look like a mess anyway with their owners and the experience that they've let go of this season. They're just... big gamble there from Blackburn. I don't quite know what they're on with. Preston have made sweeping changes to the full squad. There's a lot of different teams that I think look weaker than Charlton, for example, or I would say going to finish the lowest out of the 3 that's come up. But for 3rd season in a row, I think all 3 promoted sides will stay up, which is Birmingham, Wrexham and Charlton. Moving on to the most glaringly obvious one out of everything. Sheffield Wednesday will most definitely be finishing last. They are shit, for lack of a better word. And when you actually look at probably the strongest team that they can put out, obviously Charles is currently injured, but it won't be for long, I don't think. When you look at the team that they can put out there, it's not full of kids. They have got the odd couple of them, like the left back's not that cracking, is he? I think he's a young lad. McNeil at number 10 and Cads up front, who they sent out on loan to Lincoln last season and he were good anyway, so naturally you think he gets a chance. Charles in net is probably the best player anyway. So again, the kids that they've brought through here are not ones that we're just picking out of nowhere from academy. These are good children. These are good players. But you look at the more experienced players that they've got that are on a lot of money and think, wow, these are actually just crap footballers. It's not a case of, oh, we've got to play our kids. The bench is full of kids, in fairness. And I do think that plays a part into why they're so awful. But the starting 11 is poor, really poor. Let's not get it twisted. Their starting 11 is crap. But it's not for the reasons that Wednesday fans would like you to think that it's crap. It's not because they've got to play all these kids. It's because they've spent the money awfully. And this is what they can field. It's a crap 11. And I don't need to go into all behind scenes because it's just like, it's not getting boring. It's still funny. But I don't want to say it in every single video. So we'll just settle on Sheffield Wednesday are in fact, pardon my French, wank. And they will be finishing dead last in the Championship. We're going into League One now, that Rotherham will sack their manager. I think that is a given, that at some point Hampshire will be getting the buoyed from Rotherham. I take a lot of note of things that are said in different leagues, but specifically Yorkshire sides and ones that are local to my team, Barnsley, I do take a little bit more of an inkling to what they're doing and what's going on there. And the bits that I've picked up from Rotherham, obviously I said before the season started that I think they get relegated anyway. So to try and prove my own point, I'm seeing what's going on there behind the scenes. And the things that Hampshire comes out with Rotherham's gaffer, he's a loony bin. He is. I'll tell you what, the squad level can be crap, which it is. Apart from Nombe, they have got a terrible team. I think it's like a bottom 8 team, what Rotherham have got. But I think Hampshire, tactically, they look just completely out of the depth. I think the things that he said before in interviews post-games, like they went to Cardiff, for example, got absolutely annihilated. I think it was 3-0, but it should have been a lot more. And in first half, they had about 20% possession, 1 shot, and were losing 1-0. And in interview after the game, he has come out and said, I think we've had a good half there. I think we've done all right. And if that is truly the level that Rotherham are accepting, if they are happy with that level, to have 1 shot and not touch ball in opposition half effectively for a full half, how you can sit there and think that that is a good level for a team that Rotherham are and the expectation that their fans have got, you will not last very long. Like I've said, I think they'll get relegated, but I'm not going to put that in this video because it's not a given, is it? But I think it's an absolute dead cert that they will sack him. And maybe go back for Steve Evans again, I could see that. But Rotherham sacking the manager is the first given for me coming into League One. Next up is another one that I got a lot of flack for before the season started in my pre-season predictions, and it's one that I'm doubling down on big time. I think it is absolutely 100% certain that Peterborough will get relegated. Look at this team that they can rock. Look at this team. How many... I'll tell you what, even if you are a Championship fan, for example, and you only very rarely occasionally see little bits of League One, you will still know some of the players that Peterborough have had in previous seasons. You'd have still known about Poku and Kiprianu and Mothersill and Ricky J. Jones and Ronnie Edwards before and Harrison Burrows. You would have still known about all these players. Look at this team, and apart from Archie Collins, who's on transfer list, by the way, because he's not going to sign a new contract, and do you blame him when he's surrounded by this dross? Who do you know from this team? You'll probably know Tom Lee, centre-half from Huddersfield, who were released from worst Huddersfield side in a number of years last season. and he's probably the best defender. That's the standard that we're looking at here. Who do you know from this team? There's no one. I look at this squad. Bearing in mind they have let a lot of players go. They have actually spent some money, so you can't even go for the owner here in terms of money spent. You can definitely go where they spent it, because these lads are shit. But in terms of actually spending money, you can't say that he's not spent it this season, because they actually have. But I look at this and think, who out of these players would get into a mid-table fodder side like Wigan, for example? If I look at that and think, who would start for Wigan Athletic in this team? I'm going to go and say Archie Collins, definitely. That's it. That is probably it. I think they've always had a recognised number 9, Peterborough, that you think is just definitely going to get you loads and loads of goals. You look a couple of years ago, you go Tony, Clark Harris, even more recently Ricky J. Jones has been stood up front, or Mothersill. These type of lads have always got goals for him. I see niche from an attacking perspective here. And the only goals that they've scored so far in the league, 6 games in by the way, were a penalty in first game against Cardiff. And other than that, they scored very late on against Bradford at home in 91st minute with Keane scoring. That's it. They've scored 1 open play goal in 6 games for a side like Peterborough, who you would always think, yeah, they're going to concede a lot of goals because of how good they are going forward. This season, they're going to concede a lot of goals, and that's it. I think they're miles off, personally, and there's so many better teams in League One, it's not even funny. I am absolutely dead set on the fact that Peterborough are going to get relegated this season. The team is truly just awful. It's so poor. Like, I know some of them are young kids, so I don't want to go against them too much, and they could be half decent if they're surrounded by other half decent footballers, but Archie Collins is the only player there that I think is half decent. So other than that, yeah, Peterborough, I'm sorry lads, you are going down. Which does nicely segue into my next point, which is nice. Again, similar to the League One to Championship promoted side staying up, I think at least 3 of the 4 coming up from League 2 last season will survive comfortably as well. 2 that 1,000,000% are going to be in no danger at all are Bradford and Donny, that are currently sat in top 6. You would expect that anyway. Bradford won league and have managed to keep hold of Luke Molyneux and McGrath, who are the best 2 players. Luke Molyneux specifically, I think they've put a crazy price tag on him, and good on him, because it saves someone like Barnsley, for example, just coming and nicking him for £1,000,000, or Bolton or Huddersfield, one of these lads. So I'm glad that they've held their own there and kept the best players, because you're definitely going to survive. Just purely based on that. You would have probably survived anyway, but purely by keeping a player at calibre of Molyneux, who could just get you a goal or an assist and get you some points out of no, he's perfect. So really good from Donny. Same with Bradford as well. They've not lost anybody that they're asked about. They've really set tone, I think, and like given themselves some sort of presence by going and get someone like Stephen Humphries and Curtis Tilt, for example, and Max Power. The lads in certain positions, a lot of experience, a lot of good defensive capabilities as well with Bradford, and I think at home it'll be a very hard place to go. They're one of only 2 teams to have not lost a game yet, and I think Bradford and Donny will be miles away from any danger. Now, I actually think that all 4 will stay up. I think Port Vale and Wimbledon both will, but trying to find 4 teams that'll finish below them is quite difficult, and I think sometimes you could maybe put one in, or maybe the other one. Definitely, I don't think both of them will go down, because I think there's just that many crap sides, but I think there's slight potential that one of them could, and I couldn't really pick an option. If I were good to say either, it would probably be Wimbledon that could go down, but I don't think either of them will. I'm just saying that I think 3 of them definitely will stay up, at least 3, because when you look at it, Peterborough 1,000,000% are going down. I think Rotherham, Exeter, Northampton, Burton are probably all worse than Port Vale and Wimbledon. Like, at least one of them is going to stay up in front of 4 teams there. So I would say at least 3 newly promoted sides, Port Vale, Wimbledon, Bradford and Donny, will stay up, at least 3 of them. Next up, in League One this season, I am 100% convinced that Barnsley will be the top goal scorers for the division. Now, obviously, this is post-transfer window, and would I have been saying this before transfer window shut? Absolutely not, because we could have lost every half-decent player that we've got. But we've managed to keep them all despite a lot of interest. You're looking at someone like Adam Phillips, for example, who's got 2 goals, 2 assists so far in 7 games from Middle Park. Luke O'Connell, not as much of an attacking threat, but he's quite an aggressive 6, really. And deepest midfielder that can sort of spring attacks really fast. He's got a goal and assist as well so far. But most importantly, the biggest shining light that we've got from last season that is still here is Davis Keeler-Dunn, who's got 4 goals in 8 games so far. And we've fended off interest. I know for a fact that Luton, Preston and Blackburn were all after him. And we've managed to keep all 3 of them. Obviously, you add to that David McGoldrick, Callum Vickers, who are starters, and then you look at some lads that could chip in with goals like Russell, for example, Cleary off bench, Jallo when he's fit, Jorgen Kelly, Bland at middle at park. I think we're quite tall at back. I know we don't do anything from set piece a lot of time, but we've got a lot of tall defenders, and just the way that Urian likes to set Barnsley up It's with wingers very high and wide, whereas left back Ogbeta is really, really high up on left. He's more often than not furthest player on pitch. And I think we are just quite gung-ho, not really that arsed about defensive side of things, clearly. But going forward, we have for a lot of threat all the time, and I think we will score the most goals because of it. Mainly because of how we play, and it just create a lot of chances how we play and the amount of men that we shove forward. But we have ultimately got some of the best attacking talent in the division with Dunn, Phillips and McGoldrick. So I think Barnsley will score the most goals in League One. See, I could have come in here and said Barnsley defo get promoted, defo top 6, which we will be. But I think the goals is more of a given. So I will say top goal scorers in League One next season is Barnsley. And this might be a little bit more rogue, but from League One, I think at least one side from Yorkshire will get promoted. At least one. Now, when you look at the sides from Yorkshire that are in this division, you're looking at Rotherham, who are crap, so let's just ignore them straight away. But then the top 6 currently consists of Cardiff and Stevenage, who are top 2. But you've got Huddersfield, Donny, Barnsley and Bradford. So 4 sides currently in playoffs that all reside in Yorkshire. Now, the biggest threats to this are obviously Barnsley and Huddersfield, the 2 that are probably going to finish the highest out of all 4 of them. But Bradford and Donny have given themselves really good starts, and I could see, especially Bradford, maybe being an outside chance, but with Donny keeping the best players as well. Truly, who knows? But I think one of Barnsley or Huddersfield will finish in top 2, personally. And I could see both of them going up if one does half decent in playoffs. But I will just calm my passion a little bit. I will take a step back, take a deep breath, and say with full confidence that at least one side from Yorkshire will be getting promoted from League One next season. More than likely Barnsley or Huddersfield. Reds. Last but not least, moving into League 2. There's not a lot here because A, it's a very hard division to call because a lot of it is quite a level playing field, and B, I don't watch loads of it in comparison to Championship and League One. But the thing that is glaringly obvious to me, and is still the only thing that I can be 100% confident in, despite a mixed start, is that MK Dons 1,000,000% are getting promoted. 100%. I know you can't go to 1,000,000% before anybody says it, you can only go to 100, but I would say truly that if MK Dons do not finish top 3 in this division, it's one of the biggest failures ever. And I know you could look at like the amount of players that they've brought in and think, well, yeah, you can bring all these lads in, but you've got nobody at helm. They've got Paul Warne. Every single time in his managerial career that he has managed in League 1 or 2, he has been promoted. 4 times he's been here in these divisions. 4 promotions. There is no way with the squad level that MK Dons are rocking that they cannot be 5 from 5 here. They cannot be the one that lets him down. They spent a lot of money last season as well and were miles off it. So obviously it's not just a given that spending money equals win, but I do think we are looking at baby Wrexham here in terms of the players that they've brought in. Look at Gefwin Jones from Bolton, who I really don't think is even that cracking for League 1. But we're not in League 1. We're looking at League 2 here. Aaron Collins is going to be one at best for his division. Mendes Lang's probably best player. That Hepburn Murphy's really good. You're looking at Will Collar and Patterson that have got on free transfers from Stockport on Wednesday. That Marvin Ekpetita, who were at Blackpool last season, went on a free transfer to Hibs and MK Dons have bought him. That one at best defenders in League 1 over a year when he were at Blackpool. This team's crazy. I know, like, I don't watch loads of League 2, as I've said many times. But still, there cannot be many sides better than these. At a push, I would say Chesterfield and Grimsby could give them a bit of a run-in for it. But if MK Dons don't win league, 100 points is a failure. Never mind, don't finish top 3 or don't get promoted. This side has got to be looking at like the biggest points tally ever for League 2. With how good not only the squad is, but the manager and Paul Warne as well. It has got to be a given, surely. Maybe this is just me in denial that this can't fail. But surely to God, MK Dons have got to get promoted or finish top 3. Surely. That's what I would say. It is a given in League 2 that MK Dons are going to get promoted. But that's that. It's an absolute pleasure. Make sure you like, subscribe if you do enjoy. I do hope you enjoyed. It's something a little bit different, but with transfer window finished and international break on, we're limited with what we've got going on. So make sure you like, subscribe if you do enjoy. It does help me out quite a lot. Love you all, and I'll see you in a bit. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.
I say I'm a man, yes, I'm a mucker. I think of me saying as a right good looker. I say up that. Show us bit it.